Hi, I'm Jeff Zeig. I'm the founder and the director of the Milton Erickson Foundation, and you now find yourselves in our offices in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm very grateful to Cy Garden for translating and publishing the book that I edited, An Epic Life, about Milton Erickson. I understand that there's some questions from readers and inquirers about the book Epic Life. It's really 2 volumes. One volume is about professional perspectives, and one volume is about personal perspectives. That volume is forthcoming. So the first question is about Milton Erickson being a legendary figure in hypnosis and psychotherapy, and what makes Erickson so unique. Well, there's both a professional perspective and a personal perspective. We'll take the professional perspective first. There are some people who change a paradigm, and we could say that was a mark of genius. There are people who contribute and make a paradigm better, and Erickson was a person who changed the paradigm. Psychotherapy, as it developed in the United States, was highly influenced by the psychoanalytic tradition, which answers the question why. Why are people the way that they are? And if people understand their developmental history, that may be a sufficient prompt for them to be able to change and live more adaptively. Erickson professionally came out of a position of American pragmatism. Curiosity was how? How can people be different? Erickson was one of the people whose work was instrumental in changing the direction of psychotherapy from the past to the future. He was also remarkably personally. He was a person who lived what he was talking about. If he said that you can enjoy life in spite of limitations, he was demonstrating it in the room. He had many physical disabilities that were secondary to contracting polio when he was an adolescent. He was confined to a wheelchair when I met him 50 years ago, and had other limitations and chronic pain. And he perfused the atmosphere with being glad to be alive and being intensely interested in whoever he was with. So he wasn't just talking about theoretical propositions about how to live a good life. He was demonstrating how to live a good life. And so his genius was both professional and personal. The second question was about things that I learned from Erickson, and was there a particularly memorable encounter. I wrote a book, Experiencing Erickson, in which I recounted my personal experiences with him, but the overall inspiration couldn't really be captured in words. He wanted my sense of being with Erickson was that I wanted to be a better Jeff Zeig, because he was working so hard at being a better Milton Erickson. So it was a commitment to excellence, and I carry that with me to this day. There are a lot of lessons that I learned from Erickson, utilization being one of the primary ones. Out of the vast majority of cases that Erickson added to the literature, the essence was founded in the philosophy of utilization, that there must be something that exists in the problem or in the situation that can be harnessed constructively. The third question was what prompted me to write An Epic Life. Well, as director of the Erickson Foundation, I had interviewed people who knew Erickson, and we collected these in our archives. That includes family members and relatives. And Erickson was so personally important to me that I wanted to create a tribute that would inspire other readers in some of the ways in which Erickson inspired me. A lot of my professional success has been built on what I learned from Erickson, and Epic Life is an appreciation from me to Erickson, even though he died in 1980. The fourth question is about differentiating Ericksonian hypnosis from traditional hypnosis. And that could be explained simply. Traditional hypnosis has this direction, meaning it's from outside in, somewhat comparable from the medical approach from which it evolved. You give suggestions into a passive patient that cigarettes will taste bad, or that the person will eat more slowly. And this is how hypnosis is done in the majority of places that it's practiced in the world. Erickson's approach was inside out. stimulating into play resources. You don't induce, you elicit. And that alone was a remarkable contribution to hypnosis to change the direction of the model. There's a number of books that are available for Zeig. The first book that I wrote that was published in 1980 was a teaching seminar with Milton Erickson, which presented a model of how Erickson taught, which was in somewhat hypnotic style, stimulating into play resources rather than instructing students in content. Then I wrote a book on induction, the induction of hypnosis, which presents my understanding of an Ericksonian approach to inducing trance. Then there's another book, Psychoaerobics, which is a model of therapist development. We can develop ourselves by adding to our left hemisphere, adding techniques, but we can also develop ourselves by our ways of being, developing our perceptiveness, developing our compassion. And psychoaerobics is an experiential approach to therapist development. And then there's another book called Evocation, which describes this evocative rather than an informative approach to psychotherapy. And a book more for the public, The Habit of a Happy Life, which is about how to reform habits that can serve a more adaptive purpose. If we have negative habits, we can have positive habits. If you want to learn about Ericksonian hypnosis and how to induce hypnosis, I would say to start with the book Induction. The sixth question is about this important concept of utilization, and it can't adequately be summarized. I will try. It's a matter of response readiness, ready to respond constructively to whatever exists in the totality of the therapeutic situation. The simplest example, when I first visited Erickson, it was during my days as a hippie. I had very long hair, and it could be pulled down to the center of my back. I wore it in a ponytail. After my first visit to Erickson, I cut my hair, pretty much the same style as I'm wearing it now. And I asked Erickson to autograph a book for me, and he wrote, "To Jeff Zeig, just another book to curl your hair." Now, in idiomatic English, something that curls your hair is something that surprises you. But it was also a comment on my transition from a more adolescent life to a more adult life. For general readers, the book Epic Life is an inspiration. And it's not a textbook about doing psychotherapy. It's a book about how to live with excellence as a guide. We all have limitations. We all have problems that we face. And we need inspirations to help us be better at being ourselves. And some of my books are written for professionals, but Epic Life is really for the general public. I have been blessed to have the opportunity to come to Taiwan, and I've really appreciated the opportunity to be there, learn about Taiwanese culture, Taiwanese tradition, and I look forward to other opportunities to return. To learn about Ericksonian hypnosis, if you are a professional, there are institutes in Taiwan, and one expert is Jeffrey Chai in Kaohsiung, but there are also experts in Taipei. And if you go to the Erickson Foundation website, you find out about the institutes that exist that are affiliated with the Erickson Foundation. And these are training centers where professionals can learn how to use hypnosis in their medical, psychological practice. There are also classes that I do for professionals online. Again, I'm very grateful for Zeig for investing their resources in bringing some of my books to the public in Taiwan. And I hope in the future to meet some of you when I'm traveling there.